Ukraine on Monday denied involvement in military actions in northern Mali, particularly in reference to the Tuareg combat operation against Russian-fascist colonizers near the Algerian town of Tinzaouaten. Earlier, media reported that on July 26, 2024, Wagner PMC mercenaries were defeated near the Algerian town of Tinzaouaten thanks to intelligence provided by Ukrainian military intelligence. The situation is quite strange and perhaps surprising, especially considering the fact that over the past few months, Russian fascist occupiers from Wagner PMC have unleashed a bloody massacre in Azawad. Russian mercenaries have committed a true genocide against the local population, with the sole purpose of taking control of all companies involved in the extraction of natural resources. It all started 3 years ago after Russian puppet Colonel Assimi Goïta seized power in Mali. Wagner PMC mercenaries arrived in the country, and Mali plunged into unprecedented state violence against the civilian population, which the head of the pro-Kremlin junta tries to justify as counter-terrorism. Goïta labels the fighters for Azawad's independence as terrorists, forgetting the 2015 Algiers Agreement, which was supposed to lead to more autonomous governance of the northern regions by local residents. This agreement has not been implemented by the Malian authorities over the years. After the Russian takeover, the Tuaregs, who were equated with jihadists, became terrorists in Mali. The civilian population of Azawad found itself in a deadly trap. On one side, they face war from jihadists, and on the other, they are mercilessly exterminated by Russian Wagner mercenaries with the support of the Malian army. The Russian occupiers are wiping out entire villages in Mali, sparing neither women nor children. What is the reason for such brutal cruelty by Russian mercenaries in Azawad? The answer is obvious. Under the guise of restoring national sovereignty in Mali, Putin installed a puppet, fully controlled junta that, having liberated Mali from UN peacekeepers, began carrying out all of the Kremlin's orders. Wagner mercenaries numbering between 2,000 and 2,500 are waging a war for access to mineral resources. The Kremlin has literally taken over all the enterprises involved in the extraction of natural resources, creating unfavorable conditions for Mali, and is essentially draining its resources like a vampire. Meanwhile, Mali's puppet government continues to increase its debt to Russia, receiving weapons and mercenaries in return, which are needed to protect the junta from any attempts at overthrow. The latest major attack by Wagner mercenaries, where they suffered a crushing defeat, was linked to an attempt to seize gold mines in Tinzaouaten, where gold diggers from Niger work in slave-like conditions. The Russian occupiers, as they did earlier in Syria near Kasham, were defeated while attempting to take over the gold mining business but were caught off guard by the Tuaregs. However, Wagner currently controls the largest gold deposit in the area, and their war is essentially a war with competitors. The Russian mercenaries do not shy away from any methods in their fight for Azawad's gold. The outright genocide of the civilian population by the Russians, with the complete disregard of these events by the global media and the UN, raises the worst suspicions. It also shows the extent of Russia's willingness to commit horrifying crimes, all for the opportunity to plunder. The events in Azawad also demonstrate what could have happened in Ukraine if the advance of Russian forces had not been stopped by the Ukrainian armed forces. The genocide of the local population, all to empty the territory rich in natural resources. It is absolutely unclear why the global media remains silent about this horror, which has been ongoing for years. It is absolutely unclear why no civilized country has intervened in the situation and stopped the atrocities of the Russian fascist military engaged in the recolonization of African countries. The UN must urgently respond, not seek ways to condemn those trying to stop the genocide, but create conditions for dealing with those who created and cultivated it for their own gain.